Imagine this, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning on the way to school. And then people, ah! 501 broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing this week? How are we doing this week? You know, and the thing is, right, is that I'm always asking you guys, how are you doing? Why aren't you guys asking me how I'm doing? Nobody ever asks me how I'm doing. It's always how are you doing? It's never how am I doing. And you see, that's the problem in life. In life, things have to be reciprocal. You have to. All right, guys. Oh, I'm doing good, by the way. This is my thing, right? I'm kind of spiraling today. I'm kind of spiraling because we're getting dangerously close to the end of the season. I know. Oh, so some people are mad. Some people are mad. Say this was expected. You know, I know, guys. I know. I'm just as upset as you guys are, right? But see, the thing is, the season has to come to an end in order for there to be another one, right? We have to end one season in order for there to be another season. We have to take the time to record new episodes. You get what I'm saying, right? So, you know, I know we're approaching the end of the season, right? There's only like, what, 3 episodes left. But, you know, we're going to be back. We're going to be back. So, yeah, that's where my mind is at right now. All right? Other than that, I'm doing good. As usual, make sure that you guys are staying up to date with all of the episodes of the podcast. Make sure that you guys are following me on all my different social media platforms. You know, stay up to date. And if you haven't, go watch all of the episodes. And if you have, y'all know the vibes. All right. For today's episode, we're going to be doing this thing that I recently invented called time travel. All right. We're going to be traveling back in time with my good old, the Captain 501 time machine. And yeah, we're going to take a walk down memory lane. So of course, we're going to be logging online to google.gov. And we're going to be going to, you know them, you love them, say it with me, Access 501. It's so funny how Access 501 has been like the backbone of this podcast, you know what I mean? Which is the reason why you guys need to go on it. And I can't stress it enough. Make use of Access 501, guys. It's a free tool. Anyways, we're going to be doing it together. We're going to go on to Access 501, and there's a specific section under Access 501 called the Belize Library. Okay? And if we scroll all the way to the bottom, we'll see this section that says, wait there, a walk through Old Belize. All right? Old Belize referring to the Old Belize city, right? Where we are stationed right now. Now, how old am I? I'm 23 years old at the moment. I'm 23 years old. And I remember a lot of things from my childhood. I remember how things used to be before, you know, it became modernized, before it became renovated. But I'm interested to see how things were like back in my parents' day, back in the day. All right, because mine was just back in the day, but this is back in the day. All right, day squared. So let's get into it. A walk through Old Belize. Heritage sites, places of interest and importance which form part of Belize's identity and historic narrative. All right, we're starting off strong. The Baron Bliss Lighthouse and Grave Site. Since 1885, when the shore light at Belize City was removed from the courthouse wharf and placed at Fort George Point, this beacon has acted as a lighthouse for mariners. The present lighthouse was the first structure erected using funds from the Baron Bliss Trust. In the days leading up to his death, Belize's greatest financial benefactor, Baron Bliss, see page 4, stipulated in his will that his body be embalmed and buried near the sea in a granite tomb surrounded by iron fencing with a lighthouse nearby. You know what's very interesting? I've never seen the lighthouse light. Does the lighthouse still work? I believe it does, because that's the only lighthouse we have, right? I would assume it does, but I've never seen the lighthouse on. I've never seen the lighthouse do its thing. Following his death on March 9th, 1926, Baron Bliss was temporarily buried in the Bliss Garden, which is now the park across the street from his current resting place. Really? That used to be named the Bliss Garden? Whoa. Until the tomb and the lighthouse were erected, he had designed and outlined the plans prior to his death. Imagine planning your own burial site. That's actually really smart. I should jump on that. The lighthouse was erected along with the granite tomb. It is one of the major landmarks of Belize City and continues to guide boats to harbor in Belize City. March 9th has been designated as an annual public and bank holiday to honor his memory, and every year a wreath is placed on the tomb by members of the trust and other citizenry. A harbor regatta is also held on that date, and that's another thing that I've never seen too. I would like to witness that in person. So let's read a bit more about Baron Bliss then. So for the people who don't know about Baron Bliss is one of the biggest financial benefactors, as the book states, the financial benefactors that Belize has ever had. He came to Belize on his yacht and he immediately fell in love with Belize. And I think, if my memory serves me right, I'm going to fact check this, but if my memory serves me right, he never set foot on Belize. He lived on his yacht, but he had never set foot on Belize. No, Baron Bliss never set foot on Belizean soil. He remained on his yacht, the Sea King, while in Belizean waters. Despite this, he became Belize's greatest benefactor, leaving a significant portion of his fortune to the country after his death. That's so interesting. We need a count of the amount of times that I found something interesting on this podcast, really. Because I feel like every episode I'm like, this is very interesting. But no, it is though. Because, you know, he never set foot on Belizean soil, but he fell in love with the country. That to have that admiration from afar and to invest in that admiration. And it's because of his financial contributions to the country. Every year, March 9th is recognized as National Heroes and Benefactors Day. It used to be just called Baron Bliss Day, because I remember in school we would just refer to it as Baron Bliss Day, but now it's been referred to as National Heroes and Benefactors Day. But yeah, I would have wanted to see the lighthouse on. I would have wanted to see the lighthouse do its thing at least once. Up next, Battlefield Park. The need for recreational public space is a feature of all societies. These areas thus become center of interaction for political, religious, and economic and social purposes. Battlefield Park is a clear example of the concept of such public space within Belize Town. Belize Town. That's also want to highlight that, because they often refer to it as Belize Town as opposed to Belize City. Originally referred to as the Courthouse Green or the Courthouse Square, the wide grassy field with its 4 passageways and fountain was the traditional meeting place where townspeople exchanged national and international news. In 1863, the Legislative Assembly resolved to acquire and declare the area a public space. In the early 1900s, the name Battlefield became associated with the area. Oh, lad. In the early 1900s, the name Battlefield became associated with the area in reference to the spiritual battle carried out by the Salvation Army's religious crusades. By the mid-1930s, however, this recreational area became the main forum for labor and political activism, led by nationalist leaders like Antonio Soberanes, Lee Richardson, and Nicholas Pollard Sr., among others, prompted authorities to curtail the criticisms against colonial rule. Through the Belize Town Board, they proposed a $50 fine for interference with the landscape and passed by laws prohibiting anti-colonial speeches, songs, or any public discussion. These deterred neither the Belizean nationalist leaders nor their followers from gathering at the Battlefield Park. And I also want to say, right, looking at the picture that they have down below, the park back then, I'm gonna be controversial when I say this. The park back then looks a lot better than it does now, right? Not to say that the park looks ugly now, but the way how there's this like border of plants along the edge of the park, and there's like this entranceway. Listen. Listen. Bring that back. Bring that back, actually. Where is this park? Is this in front of the park or behind the park? This looks like... Let me zoom in. And even though Battlefield Park isn't the home for like the public meetings and gatherings and things like that, it's still a place where public interaction occurs, because, you know, a lot of things still happen at Battlefield Park. The Christmas, the lighting of the tree that City Council does happen at Battlefield Park. There's a lot of different things that happens there. I know that in Christmas time mostly is when a lot happens there, but still, it's still a widely known public space in Belize City to this day. Up next, the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts. On January 14, 1926, an Englishman by the name of Baron Henry Edward Victor Bliss, Baron Bliss, who we just talked about, arrived in the harbor of British Honduras in search of favorable weather and fishing conditions, having been confined to a wheelchair at the age of 42. So that's why he never left the yacht, because he was in a wheelchair. He had visited multiple other Caribbean countries, and though he never set foot on Belizean soil, found the environment more pleasing and the people friendlier than others. Because of this, upon news of his imminent death, the Baron arranged for the bulk of his estate to be left in a trust, the interest of which would be used for projects that would benefit Belize and Belizeans. In 1953, construction commenced on the Bliss Institute, named in honor of Belize's greatest benefactor. It opened in 1955 and consisted of a library, auditorium, display area, which was later converted into a small arts exhibition area, and lecture rooms. After major renovations, it was reopened on March 12, 2004. The Bliss, as it is known to Belizeans, then became the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts, a first-class facility for the performing arts. It boasts an elegantly furnished theater where music, drama, and dance performances are regularly held, and is home to the Institute of Creative Arts. And I know that there's still the arts exhibition area. I don't think that there's a library still there as much as far as I remember, because I think that I would remember if there was a library there. But right now it is home to the Belize National Dance Company and of course the Institute of Creative Arts. It is home to the arts. You know, if there's an art show, any of the arts, performing arts, theater, drama, dance, whatever is happening, more than likely it's going to be taking place at the Bliss. My film premiere for Destination 501 took place at the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts as well earlier this year. Add me to the list. Let's do the government house, the House of Culture, because we had just talked about this in another episode. Built in 1814 as the government house for the new superintendent of the colony of British Honduras, Colonel George Arthur, this building remained until 1981 as the seat of colonial government and the private residence of lieutenant governors, superintendents, and governors for Great Britain. It is one of the finest examples of colonial and Caribbean architecture in Belize. This structure boasts a combination of English, urban, and Caribbean vernacular architecture, which includes an 1830 carriage house, kitchen building, a guardhouse, an octagonal gazebo, and other vestiges of the colonial era architecture. It houses a wide collection of mahogany furniture and other decoratives, which include authentic silver and glass pieces dating back to the 17th century, as well as to the Victorian King George VI and Queen Elizabeth II eras. The house is known for hosting the coronation celebrations of the Mosquito Kings, who were crowned at nearby St. John's Cathedral, and the celebration of emancipation in 1838. The grounds were also the site of the transition of Belize from colony to independent nation when, at midnight on the 20th to the 21st of September 1981, the symbolic lowering of the Union Jack and rise of the Belizean flag ushered in Belizean independence. Entrance to the mansion was limited to the colonial elites, who were granted invitation for official and social gatherings. After ongoing refurbishment, however, the building was opened to the public in 1998 by the government of Belize and renamed the House of Culture. Dedicated to the preservation of historical and monumental events that occurred in the government house, the House of Culture maintains the permanent collection of period furniture and implements and welcomes residents and visitors for social and cultural events. And as mentioned, now the House of Culture is the home for the Museum of Belizean Art. And while it does house the Museum of Belizean Art, it is still used widely during the month of September for the there are the annual September celebrations that occur the 21st night, the 20th to the 21st night. They still keep that tradition of, you know, raising the flag, the fireworks. They have performances that take place there, and it's definitely more public and more easily accessible for citizens today than it was when it was originally created. Holy Redeemer Cathedral. The original church building dates from 1852 mahogany structure on Belize estate lands on North Front. This was destroyed by fire on July 17, 1856, causing the move to a temporary building on Regent Street, ultimately concluding with the cathedral located on North Front Street. Considered the center of Roman Catholic worship in Belize City, the Cathedral of the Holy Redeemer was first constructed in 1858, just 7 years after the permanent establishment of the Roman Catholic Church in Belize. The structure was originally just a brick church, and its physical growth reflects that of the growth of the Roman Catholic Church in the country. In 1862, the two side altars were added by the Italian secular priest Father Eugene Biffe. In 1871, Father George Avaro arranged for the building of the first tower, and later the second tower was built under the guidance of Reverend Joseph A. Murphy. Then in 1890, it was enlarged with the addition of 2 chapels, 2 aisles, and a sacristy. Despite these periodic additions, Holy Redeemer Cathedral appears today as if it were originally constructed as one building. And that is true, because I would have never known that. The church was not raised to the dignity of a cathedral until 1890s, when the first bishop was appointed. In 1931, hurricane destroyed both of the high towers, and after being made smaller, the towers were again heavily damaged in Hurricane Hattie of 1961. Constant attempts are made, however, to maintain its bell towers, stained glass windows, and intricate interior woodworks. See, and I didn't know that. I thought that those towers were like always a part of the original building. The more you know. Lord Ridge Cemetery, aka Bering Ground. Lord's Ridge Cemetery, located on a pine ridge at the western edge of Belize City, was the principal place of burial since its consecration in 1886. The cemetery was opened on a parcel of land that was taken by the government from its owner for failure to pay taxes owed. Whoa. It runs for approximately 2,000 feet on both sides of the George Price Highway, which serves as a main artery for entry and exits into and out of Belize City. The cemetery was opened for burials on March 1, 1886, though it appears to have been officially opened on July 16, 1886. The first person buried in Lord Ridge was a 38-year-old woman named Elizabeth Morrison. Curiously, in 1840, there was an attempt at having denominational cemeteries, one for the Baptists and one for the Methodists, but they soon were unused and Lord Ridges became the burial site for all denominations. So then where were those then? There was an attempt at having denominational cemeteries, one for the Baptists and one for the Methodists, but they soon were unused. So where were they then? Where was the location for that? In 1999, the cemetery was renovated with the addition of a perimeter fence, landscaping, and a marble memorial highlighting the names and contributions of persons buried there. Both of Belize's named national heroes, George Price and Philip Golson, are buried there. Another interesting thing about our cemetery that they don't mention is that because Belize City, the entirety of Belize City is under sea level, because of that, the burial sites at the Lord Ridge Cemetery have to be above the sea level. They have to be buried in tombs, basically. And because of that, the land itself at the Lord Ridge Cemetery is like elevated. So whereas in places like America, for example, when you go to their cemeteries, it's very flat. And then you just have the headstones that are there as the indicator of where people are buried. But here in Belize, everybody gets their own tomb that is above the ground, and because of that, you know, everybody's tomb is shaped different, it's built different, they're different colors and things like that. So that's another interesting fact. Memorial Park is located just off Marine Parade between North Park and South Park streets in the Fort George area. It was constructed in memory of the British Hondurans / Belizeans who were casualties in the First World War. The cenotaph, at, let me fact check that word. A monument erected in honor of someone buried elsewhere or whose remains are unknown.
Cenotaph.
Cenotaph. See? Learn a new word. The cenotaph at Memorial Park is a granite obelisk on which the names of those native casualties who served with the British Hondurans Territorial Force are inscribed. So that's what it was called before it was called the BDF, the British Honduras Territorial Force. And now it's the Belize Defense Force. The semi-granite benches at Memorial Park were donated by individuals and organizations in 1964. In the 1960s, the City Council undertook a beautification project. The Boy Scouts were in charge of watering the plants every morning and evening. The bandstand at the park is used for cultural events, including the official ceremonies for the 10th and 21st of September celebrations, which they still do to this day. The colonial architecture of several houses in proximity to Memorial Park adds to the welcoming ambience of this public space. In 2012, the government of Belize, through the Belize Sustainable Tourism Project, launched renovations for the improvement of the Memorial Park to highlight it as a significant landmark within the city. This project was scheduled to complete in 2013. And now to this day, Memorial Park still serves as like one of the main places where public events occur, like especially again in the month of September. The September 10th and the September 21st celebration, the City Council Park Fest, is that what it's called? At the Lord Rayban Plaza, which is behind Memorial Park. It's become a main landmark for Belizeans. St. John's Cathedral, described as the first Protestant Episcopal church founded in Spanish America, St. John's Cathedral was the first church to be constructed in the then colony of British Honduras. It is the oldest surviving building of Belize's colonial past. It was through the untiring efforts of the magistrates that the plot of land on which the cathedral stands was made available. The first cornerstone was laid on July 20th, 1812, but it was not consecrated until 1826. The church was built by slaves using bricks brought from the United Kingdom as ballast in the hulls of the ships. So is it the same bricks that are also used that they made the Museum of Belize out of? The old prison at the time? And though the present structure is faithful to its original design, it has undergone numerous alterations and renovations to maintain its architectural and structural integrity. It boasts intricate stained glass windows, mahogany pews and fixtures, sapodilla fittings, and an antique organ, which I think is like one of the oldest organs that we have in this country, if I'm not mistaken. The church is located directly across the street from the former government house, now House of Culture, echoing the two pillars of colonial administration, the church and the governmental power. Visitors have included the former Archbishop of Canterbury and Wales 1969 and York 1958, as well as several members of the royal family. In addition to visits from Europeans, it boasts visits from Latin American royalty. St. John's Cathedral is the only church outside of England where kings have been crowned. So kings have been crowned at St. John's Cathedral? Wait! Because that's a big thing. St. John's Cathedral is the only church outside of England where kings have been crowned. So a king was crowned in St. John's Cathedral, is what I'm hearing? During the 1800s, 3 Mosquito Indian kings held their coronation ceremonies there. 3 kings were crowned. There's a lot of history in these places in Belize. And there's a lot of Belizeans who don't know it. Myself included until just now. St. John's College. My school that. The sprawling campus of Princess Margaret Drive embodies one of the oldest, largest, and most diverse educational institutions in Belize. St. John Birchman's College, was established as a Catholic Jesuit institution by priests in 1887 with an enrollment of 12-day students and 2 boarders. Today it has grown to realize 4 divisions, including an adult evening education program and a 6th form junior college of outstanding educational reputation with a total enrollment of over 2,000 students. Originally established as a select school at the Catholic Presbytery of the Holy Redeemer Cathedral on North Front Street, the school in 1896 moved into a newly constructed building nearby and changed its name to just St. John's College. With a steadily increasing enrollment bolstered by boarding students from Guatemala and Honduras, the school again moved on July 17, 1917 to spacious wooden buildings to the south of Belize town called Loyola Park. Following the setbacks of a yellow fever outbreak in 1921, calling for extended quarantine measures, and the devastating hurricane in 1931, which completely destroyed the buildings and killed many students and teachers. In fact, Belize's first prime minister and national hero, who was an 11-year-old at the time, narrowly escaped the destruction of the hurricane. And that was an interesting story to read about too. I don't know how many people know about that story, but apparently they were at school at the time when the hurricane had occurred, because like there wasn't a lot of like radios or you know, there wasn't like the news at the time for them to know that, okay, a hurricane is coming. Let me find a story on that. Okay, this is coming from a 2018 post from the Belize City House of Culture and Downtown Rejuvenation Project. We may have heard stories of how people survived the 1931 hurricane. Below is a short paragraph of how George Cadle Price survived that hurricane. September 10, a sad day. George Price at age 12 had been boarding at the St. John's College for about 3 months when the hurricane struck on the afternoon of September 10th. September 10th. It blew from the northwest. The large wooden building of 3 stories rested on concrete posts that were not reinforced with steel rods. It leaned and collapsed with the terrifying noise of thunder. Along with some boarders and their teachers, George Price ran out of the building before it crumbled. They took shelter behind calm and sunlight for some minutes. During the lull, Carl Kittiel came from the town on his bicycle. He took George on the bicycle and rode to the Kittiel home on Albert Street. On the way, the second half of the hurricane struck blowing from the northeast and brought back the sea in a huge tidal wave of 13 feet high. The houses began to shake. The people got out and took refuge in a bakery that was next to the Wesley Church. The upper part of the church fell on the bakery. George heard the song of thunder and got out in time. After 2 narrow escapes from falling buildings, his 12-year-old mind thought of home on Pickstock Street as a safe place, and there he would go. Albert Street was flooded by the tidal wave. He swam through the swing bridge and took shelter in the lobby of the Palace Theater. Towards nightfall, the hurricane passed. With the help of Mr. Ronald Young, he reached his home to see the house on the ground blown down off its brick posts. Imagine the trauma. Being 12 years old, freshman in high school at that point, and experiencing a hurricane, being caught in a hurricane. St. John's College was forced to return to North Front Street in temporary quarters. It was not until 1952 that St. John's College occupied its present site at Landover, named after Central American's renowned scholar Raphael Landover. Being 12 years old and quite literally fighting for your life in one of the deadliest hurricanes to ever hit this country. Going to your house and finding your house, first of all, narrowly escaping 2 buildings almost falling on you, narrowly escaping drowning in a 13-foot tidal wave, and going back home to your house to find it leveled on the ground. And then having to get up the next day and then pick up the pieces. That's insane. Alright, let's do one more. The swing bridge. The Belize City Swing Bridge spans the Haulover Creek and connects the north side with the south side of Belize City. It is the oldest swing bridge in Central America and the only manually operated bridge still functioning in the world. I'm finding out right now that Belize has a lot of oldest, right? For example, the St. John's Cathedral being the oldest in Spanish America was what they said. And then now the swing bridge being the oldest swing bridge in Central America. The bridge was constructed in Liverpool, England in 1922 and at a cost of $84,000 and brought to Belize City by the Jefferson Construction Company, a US-based company in New Orleans. It was installed and opened to the public on April 11, 1923 and designed to allow vessels with tall masts to pass the bridge and continue up the creek. This bridge replaced previous wooden bridge built in 1818 and again in 1859. The swing bridge is manually operated by a minimum of 4 men who hand crank a central gear until the bridge is aligned with the creek. Again, I need to say this, and this is going to shock the masses. I've never, in my 23 years of living, seen the swing bridge turn. Never. Not once. The swinging of the bridge would interrupt vehicular and pedestrian traffic twice daily, once in the morning and again in the evening to accommodate the movement of boats headed inland. Since 2007, the bridge is only opened by special request as boat traffic is not as heavy up creek as before. That's probably why I haven't seen it. Because for the most part now, there aren't that many big boats that travel up the Belize River. Most of them are just out there at the mouth of the river. You know, for the most part, it's just like the smaller boats that can easily pass under the bridge that would make its way up this side. Which makes sense. But yeah, the next time that they swing the bridge, I'll make I know because I want to see it. I want to see it swing. Swing the engine, alright. Now, there are many more historical landmarks in Old Belize that I didn't cover because it would be a lot to fit into just one episode. But if you guys want to read the rest of it, if you guys want to take the walk down memory lane and read a walk through Old Belize, I will attach the link in the description for you guys to go and check it out. You can always find it on Access 501 as well. This episode of the Captain 501 broadcast is brought to you by the National Institute of Culture and History, NICH. NICH has been serving Belize for over 20 years as Belize's premier cultural institution dedicated to safeguarding and preserving culture and history. Whether it's divisions like the Institute of Archaeology or the Institute of Social and Cultural Research, NICH has created various outlets to maintain an open and collaborative approach to cultural heritage and arts promotion, management, and cultural safeguarding with its various stakeholders. You can learn more about the resources provided by NICH by visiting the Museum of Belize or the Museum of Belizean Art located in Belize City, the various houses of culture located countrywide, as well as visiting nichbelize.org or other websites such as the 501 Academy and Access 501. Alright, let's start with the big three because the big three is going to interconnect with the controversial topic. You guys are gonna get it in a second, but let's go to the big three. Alright, starting off with my favorite TikTok video. This is my favorite TikTok video at the moment. For the audio listeners, it's a video of Dylan Mack, a very infamous Caribbean content creator, where if you heard the audio, the caption for it says Caribbean people on the way to work at 7 a.m. And truly, I don't think that there's ever been a realer TikTok video made. I don't think that there's ever been a truer TikTok video made because that is me down to the bone. That is me every single day on my commute to school because for the most part, we live like an hour away from school, right? And my classes would start at about like 10 in the morning. So with that, I have to leave the house no later than 8:30. 8:30 the latest, because it takes an hour to get to school, right? And sometimes I would have to leave earlier. Sometimes I would leave from like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, depending on, you know, like if I have work or stuff like that. And I have, I have a playlist entitled Carnival. A playlist entitled Carnival, no less than what, like 120 beats per minute. No, let me look that up. What is 120 beats per minute? That's still too slow. We could check 125. Okay, 125. I would say 125. 125 beats per minute seems fair. I would even knock it up to 135, 140. You know what I mean? Listen, if you're going to take the drive with me to school in the morning, nothing slow. Not get in the vehicle and play no slow song. I can't. Listen, my friend could tell you, I can't deal with no slow song. I want to party. All right? There is no greater feeling for me than being in the car and it's 7 a.m. in the morning and I'm by myself to blast my Carnival playlist. And it's all of the fast-paced soca too. We work so hard all week. We deserve a party. So you can jam up with who you want and I could wind up with who I like it. You know, we have to be grateful for windows. Because if the people beside me on the highway could hear the songs that I'm listening to. And this is the thing. I not play it soft. Alright, I not play it at a reasonable volume level. I'd blast that hard in the vehicle. So even if the windows are up, they could probably still hear from the outside. Do I care? No. No. That better than any, listen, my Carnival playlist early in the morning better than any coffee, better than any Starbucks, better than any espresso, that better than anything. You want to be ready to start your day? Start with Wally Carnival playlist. Start with my Carnival playlist. Nothing less than 125, 130 beats per minute. You know what my favorite one? The one where I like, the one with the mix with the People Man and Brocket Set It, make a find it. Imagine this, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning on the way to school. Uno not get a vision. Uno not get a vision. Uno need to be in the car with me on the way to school so could really get it. When the bass are the speakers, I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Oh, and this leads me to my controversial opinion, right? My controversial opinion is there is nothing more therapeutic, nothing more freeing in life than being alone driving in the car by yourself. Truly, being alone driving in the car by yourself and blasting your music as loud as you want to, truly, there is no greater feeling. Well, maybe there are greater feelings, but anyways, for the sake of the topic, you get what I'm saying. And I'll give you guys a little joke, right? Because I'm the designated driver in my group. Because my friend group isn't serious, I have a friend group that's filled with a bunch of unserious people. And this is the second time that I'm putting my friend group on blast, right? But they need it. Because at this point, they need their lashings, right? I love my friend group, don't get it twisted. But if you look up unserious in the dictionary, my friend group pops up. Unserious set of people. Anyways, so I'm the designated driver in the group. It's either me or my girlfriend Shadi, right? We're the designated drivers. But for the most part, when I'm here in Belize City, she's not always here. So for the most part, it's always me, right? So whenever we hang out, whenever we go out, whenever they come over, things like that, more than likely, I would end up being the one having to drop everybody home, right? And then they would always say that they feel bad when I drop off the last person and I have to drive home by myself. They say that they always feel bad for me. And listen, no worry about me. I'm the last person you should worry about, all right? Because when the last person get out of my vehicle and I could finally blast my music the way how I want, listen, I'm good. All right? Once I got my phone, Once I got the aux cord and once I got data, I set. All right, the creator that I want to highlight for today is Puppyfoot. Their social media username is puppy.foot. Puppyfoot, I'm sure that if you look them up, you're going to find them. Puppyfoot Belize. You know, just search them up and you're going to find them. You've probably seen one of their videos before because they capture Belizean content. They capture Belize, I should say. They travel the country, they travel to different parts of Belize, and they capture Belize in a way that it reminds me almost of what the Belize Tourism Board produce, the content that the Belize Tourism Board produces. You know, the type of content that you would see advertising Belize in Times Square. That's how I would describe their content. Definitely give them a follow and check out their content. All right, and then the song of the week. The song of the week, I'm gonna put the People Man Rhythm. The People Man Rhythm, the Brocket Set It remix. It's on SoundCloud. I'm gonna link it in the description if you guys want to go check it out and if you guys want to add it to your 7 a.m. morning playlist. All right, guys, this was a fun episode. I'm gonna let you guys go for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Captain 501 broadcast. As usual, make sure you're keeping up to date with all the episodes. Go check out all of our past episodes, the solo episodes, the guest episodes. They're all up available now for you guys to stream. If you haven't yet, go and stream it. Make sure that you guys are following the podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Captain 501 broadcast. Be sure to be following me. Keep up with my social media pages for updates on the podcast, what's next to come. Follow me at Captain Cadle, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Go ahead and check me out on my different social media platforms. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Deuces.